Liberty University men's tennis team is in Orlando right now competing in the ITF tournament. Now they are gearing up to play in the NCAA Individual Championships on November 11th here at Liberty University. This is Emily Miller with your Virginia local news. The women's field hockey team here at Liberty University just clinched the Big East title for the 2025 season. Seniors Anna Miller and Lou Combrink helped lead the charge for the Flames. This is Emily Miller with your Virginia local news. With baseball season around the corner, athletes are dedicated to making their dreams happen. Only 8.1% of baseball athletes go on to play in the NCAA, but that doesn't mean it can't happen.
Scheduled a visit, and then I went down there, visited their campus and then their indoor facility, and then he offered me there, and probably like 2 hours after when I got home, I committed to him.
Spencer Grant is just one of the few from Liberty High School that are making their mark. Many have entered the Hall of Fame all under Coach Jim Cutler. Hard work and perseverance help these athletes when the unexpected happens during recruitment.
Very hard and everything with baseball and the recruiting process and everything, that was really hard. But now I'm coming back, I'm recovering, I'm going through rehab still, and it's been 11 months and doing all that stuff to get better at baseball and everything, and hopefully achieve my dream of playing college baseball one day.
Recruitment can be a long and difficult process, but if you put in the effort in your early high school years, it can make a world of difference. Now, this doesn't have to be a solo adventure. Start contacting coaches and players to make this a group effort. Countless amount of hours on the field and in the batting cages have prepared them for recruiting, although some may not know where they stand outside the field.
Up in the air, if I get an offer for playing out here, if somebody looks at me, then I'll just have to look in to see what kind of, degree I could get.
This is Emily Miller with Virginia's local news. At Tennessee now. You said you work for the SEC network?
Yes. Yeah. So right now I'm a digital producer and host for them. My main weekly job is producing the Everything Orange podcast that I host. That's every week, every Friday. But then I get thrown into a lot of other things. If we have, just recently we had a story about our highest recruit, Nate Ament. He went to Rwanda because his mother is from there. And so we did a sit-down interview with him. And we have the number 3 soccer team in the country right now. Yes. So I'm sitting down with their goalie next week. So being able to, as the seasons go on and we develop more storylines, being able to sit down with those athletes, those coaches, and help share their story a little bit more intimately. Because the podcast really is just a space for them to, for our fan base and for, sports fans across the country, just to get to know them outside of their game. Level. Yes, because I feel like one of my biggest passions is Olympic sports, women's sports, the stories that don't get all of the coverage that they deserve.
Yeah, of course.
But also making people realize, they're not just your bet that you're placing that weekend. These are people. These are, kids that are dealing with, changes in their personal life and figuring out how to navigate, being on this platform with their social media presence and just make them realize that they're people at the end of the day. So it's a great space to do that. And then I get thrown into interviews here and there depending on what comes about. And then we do have the in-house SEC network, which has been amazing in giving me opportunities to be able to sideline. I've been able to do some men's and women's basketball games. I did a volleyball game for the first time this year, which is great because that's the one thing that I don't get the most of in my job is that live television production. So being able to work with them has been awesome as well.
Of course. Yeah. So changing gears a little bit, what is some advice that you would give to women trying to get their foot in the door in this industry?
Networking. And it sounds so simple, but also a little bit scary of putting yourself out there. I think for me, it was what's the worst thing that someone can say? Not even get a response, I guess, is the worst thing. We're all busy. So, but networking has been huge for me just to be able to have that support, have that mentorship, have somebody to ask those questions with. And you think the sports world is so big, but it is so small. The amount of people that I have crossed paths with, that I went to school with, that I had internships with, it feels like a really big space, but really it is so small. So I think networking is the biggest piece of advice that I can give. But I think even beyond that, and beyond maybe even being a woman in sports, the thing that I have had to learn the hard way myself in this job is being able to advocate for yourself. in this field, nobody cares about what you do as much as you do. And no one knows what that takes to do what you can do at a high level. So, you know, being in those spaces and being comfortable, having a voice for yourself and speaking up for yourself when you see right and wrong, and making sure that you're advocating for yourself, because that's so important. And I feel like, you know, that was something that I had to learn.
Something
a
that
little
we
bit the hard way.
all can work on each and every day.
Yeah.
So, lastly, what is your favorite sports moment that you have witnessed? I know, surprise question.
Oh man.
If you could pick one.
This is a really hard one. Really hard one.
Any sport, any moment, if you were just there to witness the game, if you're reporting on it, or maybe even like a moment with an athlete that like you had to sit down and interview that really touched you or made an impact.
Okay, I'll tell two. My favorite sports moment has got to be the 22 win over Alabama at home.
Yes.
The goalpost came down. It was a whole production. It was so much fun to be a part of. And it's funny because, you know, being from the University of Georgia, people ask me like different times, like, oh, are you rooting for Tennessee here and
I feel
there?
like you get that all the time.
All the time, right? And I'm like, y'all don't understand that I have built such great relationships with these athletes. I want to see them succeed. So having that moment, seeing it all play out in that way was, you know, a field goal at the end of the game that won it. So it was an amazing environment to be around. And as a lover of just sports in general, like that's a moment that
you'll never forget.
Yes.
Everybody wants to witness. Everybody wants to be at.
Everyone wants to be there for it. So that was great. And then I think one of the best moments that I had with an interview that I did, I had one of our baseball players on the podcast last season, and it was after they had won the national championship. And so we're talking, and he's a pitcher, and we were talking about specifically, he closed out game 2 in the championship final series against Texas A&M, which sent them into game 3.
Okay.
And kept them alive for one more game, which ended up being, you know, that they went on to win it. And so I'm talking to him about closing that game out, the final out, and he had a great moment with his catcher where they like embraced right after the final out. And I just asked him about that a little bit deeper. I was like, what is that? The catcher's name was Cal. I was like, what did Cal mean to you during that run, during your time, throughout that game, throughout the season? And he got emotional and started crying. And first of all, I was like, oh my gosh, my first crier.
Did you ask the wrong thing?
Right. I'm like, what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to treat this? I just, it's one of those things too where like you don't know how you're going to react until you're in that moment. But I gave him the space to just sit there and just feel it. Yeah. Right. And so I think it was funny. I came downstairs and I told one of my students that had happened, and he was like, well, that's because you give us, you provide a safe space for people to be able to share, you know, how they're truly feeling and their experience authentically. And I like, it took me aback. I was like, oh my gosh.
Because you don't realize you're doing it until someone points it out.
Exactly.
Or until something like that happens.
You don't realize the impact something like that can have. And so I reflect back on that moment as like, wow, like it just meant so much to me that, you know, I've been able to build these relationships. They trust me to tell their stories and to give them a safe space to be able to do so.
Okay. Well, I thought of actually one more question.
Okay, yeah,
so
hit me.
lastly, this is last. What are some ways that you prepare for interviews?
Yeah.
Or like just questions or
Absolutely. It's a process. Doing a 20 to 30 minute podcast. I mean, Trent and Brian can probably attest to it too. It takes a lot of research to be able to put that all together. So I'm reading up on how the team's doing statistically. I'm reading up how they've done. I'm also looking at where they started in the program to where they are now to see the growth over the years. I'm reading articles. I'm watching interviews that they've done with local media and reading the papers that they've written about them or press conferences post game. I'm taking the big moments and then asking them, you know, the intimate questions about their experience. So it changes person to person how I want to approach it. I always do want to approach like the now. Why is it relevant now for us to be talking to you? But then I do always want to get into like, okay,
the little stuff.
Yes, let's put the sport aside for a second and just like let's us talk about who you are a little bit further. So I mean, it's hours. It's usually a full day's prep beforehand that I'll put together some questions. But I try to be as loose with them as possible because I try to active listen so that I can ask those follow-up questions and see wherever it takes me.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, this was wonderful. I'm so glad I was able to do it and it worked out. And I hope everything goes well with you and the rest of your time here and in school.